Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the KatyG Podcast. But today is extra special, you guys, because it is the first of my new Subseries Emotional Resonance Factor podcast. And it's extra special because of the guest I have today. But before I get to my fabulous guest, I want to give you guys a 30-second education on what emotional resonance is. If you know me at all, you know that I've got my third book out with the same title, Emotional Resonance Factor. But I want to give you guys a little bit of a background on it real quick before my guest joins us, so that when I'm talking to my guests, you have a framework for what we're talking about, and you have a framework for what this podcast is going to cover, so you can come back and recommend guests. So here's the deal. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and regulate your emotions. It's something you learn and you practice, you guys. Emotional resonance, though, is something very different. It's not about managing emotions. It's about being attuned. The meaning of emotional resonance actually lies in the experience of deep emotional alignment. It's what happens when your internal world actually responds to someone else's presence or their truth in a way that feels natural and actually, here's the deal, unspoken. And I know that word unspoken seems funny on a podcast, but it's the truth. So emotional resonance is actually then based in energy. It's not about effort. Let me say that again. Emotional resonance is not about your effort. So when you're in resonance, you're in alignment. And when that happens, you're present and you're aligned with your own truth. And it's that quiet feeling of being seen, felt, and understood on a level that doesn't require explanation. You know that feeling when you're standing somewhere and you just feel like, I am being seen and understood and felt, and like everyone gets it, I get it. It's so cool, right? So resonance isn't something you can quote unquote perform. It arises naturally when you're fully connected to yourself. And the more you live in integrity with who you are, the more you become available for these kinds of connections based on resonance. And from that space, the right people, ideas, opportunities tend to find you, not through pushing, but through openness. So resonance feels like ease. It draws connections, not by reaching outward the way everyone thinks in the world of business you have to, but actually by just standing firmly in who you are. That's why there's no effort required, you guys. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to perform. You simply need to be present and true. And in that space, real connection happens. So here's the deal. Each of us carries a unique emotional blueprint. It's shaped by our experiences, our gifts, and the work we've done to return to our truth, your natural talents, you can call it. And this is why what resonates for one person may not resonate for another. And that difference is just not just natural, you guys, it's sacred. So my goal with this podcast subseries today on is for you to listen to my amazing guests, to see how they have mastered their emotional resonance, leading to their success, and then model your own success and resonance after theirs, making it genuine and authentic for you because you can't be anybody else. Okay, so that's the background. So let me introduce my fabulous first guest on this podcast subseries. His name is Sherwin Dowlat, and he is the co-founder of Veil. And I'm going to let him tell you what Veil is. But the other thing you should know about Sherwin is that he's also my nephew. So I tell you that partly in full disclosure, partly because it becomes relevant later on. So welcome, Sheriff.
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you for making time and joining us after the markets have closed.
Yeah.
So, hey, tell us what Veil is, and maybe you tell us what Veil is and what you do, and then I'd love for you to tell us your story.
Sure. So Vail is an investment company and a technology company. So we do private investments into like early stage companies, and then we do liquid investments as a hedge fund into liquid companies. And then we also build technology and software. I think what's unique about it is we only deal with cryptocurrencies like a Bitcoin and things like this. And so that's what we've done. And I can go through a lot of my past that led up to this.
Cool. So for those of you who are listening, you guys, and you're like, we don't understand a word of what he does. That's okay. You don't need to understand what he does to understand how he successfully got to where he is and who he is. Okay. I think that's fair because if we wanted to, I could have you back for a crypto primer another time. I'm just not sure it'd be important for the Emotional Resonance podcast. The point is, why this becomes relevant as to what he's doing and what he's done is how he built up his emotional resonance to get to where he is. So tell us your story. And I asked him this as my podcast guest, but I got to tell you guys, I wanted him on the podcast because as his aunt, I got to watch him grow up and I got to watch him firsthand develop into who he is and his success and watch how his emotional resonance got him there. So I'll let you tell him how that happened. Sheriff, go ahead.
Sure. So I think from the start, when I was like a teen, I was kind of looking for ways to just survive and make some money. And I had worked a couple very like minimum wage jobs. And then I ended up just like being drawn towards, because I really love technology. So I ended up actually buying and selling used iPhones at the time. And that developed into computers and things like that. And so it basically became a way to make small money to get by so that I didn't have to work a normal job. And then I really loved learning about technology. And so specifically, I love numbers and technology. So I got to learn about prices how they're related to the technology itself. And then kind of as I got older, I worked for an investor, and I got to learn a little bit more about how the stock market worked, which was a much more formal and larger way to make investments, versus what I was doing, which was on Craigslist, kind of wheeling and dealing. And then a little bit later on, I studied math in college, so I researched Bitcoin at the time, and this was 12 or 13 years ago by this point. And it was very interesting to me. And again, this was technology, and this fell into that, and it was just very, very interesting to me. And zero people had heard about it at the time. A very small amount of people. It was not in the news at all. I basically just followed I think like acumen. Like I just researched kind of with my like blinders on. Like I just didn't really care what people had to say about it because I brought it up to a couple of professors in my university at the time who had kind of shot it down, and they, I think end of the day, if you've done your research, that speaks louder because most of them had not done their research. And so I said, okay, this is still fascinating to me. I'm going to still pursue this. And it was hard because at the time the industry was essentially nothing, so I couldn't really get a job doing this. But I got an internship doing it. That led to working at a really large Wall Street trading firm. So I worked at this really, really large high frequency trading firm. So one of these companies that trades stocks really fast and in really, really big size. And there I got to do a little bit of research into this, which was kind of my foot in. And then at that point, I was just completely still drawn to this cryptocurrency type of thing. And then I had reached out to who became my boss, who started Polychain. And Polychain was like the first fund to exclusively invest into these coins, into these crypto coins, when again, really nobody had really heard about them, but he started in 2016. And it was really interesting because it was a time where people had now heard a little bit about it, maybe, but they really hated it. And it's human emotion. Like anything that's new to you that you don't know about that threatens really large traditional things that you understand, like a bank or like your money, it's just met with a lot of kind of like resistance. And so what he was doing was really unique. And he said, hey, look, all I do is I buy into these. I at the time had a really formal way to research a lot of the stuff that I did. And from just having worked formally at the previous firm I worked at with research. And so he said, why don't you just come do that here? And it was really exciting because now for the first time I could do this full time. And again, like the theme there is it's like, yes, it deals with money because we were managing other investors' capital and taking their money and buying these pretty risky coins with them at the time when nobody had ever heard of this kind of stuff. but it was mostly technology. So like how we pick them is we read deeply into them. You don't have anybody else's opinion to go off of because nobody knows what this stuff is or really has a valuable view on it. So we were basically trekking like the path forward for a lot of this kind of stuff. And it was interesting because there were some pretty bad times where, our performance was bad. Like this will happen in the early days of anything kind of big. But and it's just like looking at the internet, in the early 90s. It's like, what are you ever going to use this for? It's met with a lot of skepticism. Same with email when that came about. Like, why would I ever use that? I could go to the post office and write a note
Right.
card, right? Or I could pick up the phone and call that person. Why would I ever need to write this digital mail?
And now, same for AI, right?
Yeah.
It was just that I was just telling you before we started, I was at the Content Marketing World Conference, global conference, and AI is still a conversation, big conversation for marketing, but it's met with resistance, I think, the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so disruptive to something that is such a large industry that's existing. And
Yes.
so anyways, we pursued that, and just a few years ago I left to start Veil, which is a very similar fund to Polychain, which is just investing into these digital assets and these kind of cryptocurrencies. So that's kind of like what led me here.
So there's so much there to unpack. I just have to say, when you were talking, I remembered one of the first memories I have of you, like getting into the flow of buy low, sell high kind of concepts, was you won some contest in high school with investments. I remember that. I don't know if you remember that or not yourself. And then I
Yeah.
remember you used to buy watches on eBay and used to sell watches on eBay. I remember I asked you about it once. You're like, I can buy them lower and then I can turn around and sell them for a higher price. So I say that not just to reminisce down memory lane with my nephew, but it's relevant for this audience because there is something fundamentally natural there, the curiosity, the drive to overcome the risk. Uh, that is what resonance, in my opinion, about what you're saying is. You're standing still, but and you're talking about the fact that you researched it. And so you kept your head down, but you also said it fascinated you, right? So that fascination is what I want to draw on, because so many people come and say, well, I want to make a lot more money and I don't know what I need to do emotionally, what's got to
Mhm.
happen. Well, I mean, let's just take your story and unpack it, whether it's Bitcoin or not. But I love the fact that it was Bitcoin because, like you said, people hated it. It was disruptive. And you literally had nothing to go by except you say it was your science and your research, but I say from the emotional perspective, it was your gut and your intuition that, hey, this is interesting. This has value somewhere. So I'm going to play the odds. And there might not be anybody else's data to go by, but I believe in this. Is that fair to say, Sheriff?
Totally fair. Yep.
So is that what kept you going?
Yeah, I think so.
Or
I think
said no, for instance? Pardon my interruption.
no, yeah, exactly. But I think it was more like the research was the backbone behind it, and then that gave me like energy to push on beyond because I think it's a really valuable lesson, especially in investments, which is if everybody likes the same thing, it's never a good investment. If everybody hates the same thing, it's a completely, by the nature of it, if everybody likes something, that means they already own it. It's not going to make a lot of money. If everybody hates something, it means they probably don't own it. And if you own it and it ends up being good, it's going to be great. So this ended up being kind of like that. But it's really hard because when you're young and you know, all you have is your gut and then the research and the work you've done, and then other people don't like something, it's still intimidating. And putting your career on it is of course really intimidating, but I felt like I'd regret it if I didn't. So
That's really important. So I want you all to listen to him very clearly. What he just said was magnificent. I have deep respect for what he just said and for who he is. He was young. He had that going against him. So there's all that judgment and commentary. Well, you don't know what you're talking about because you're young, right? Age
Yeah.
is into this. Remember, emotional resonance has nothing to do with your actual literal age. It has to do with the wisdom of what you believe in. And so you stand still and tune into who you are, align with your truth, and the world just kind of delivers that to you, like he's saying. Now, standing still, to his point of being young, of having being in an area that really no one knew much about, but he had his own research and he trusted his research and what he was finding, and he trusted that he was researching in the right area. So there's a lot of innate trust of who you are. And you call it regret, Sheriff. I just look at it as, what if, right? What if I'm right?
Yeah.
You were right. And I remember being on this side, my sister and I would be like, what is this coin thing he keeps talking about? And my sister's like, I don't know. I hope he gets a job one day. And so we didn't know, but we supported you as best as we could. I don't know if that was good enough, but look, it didn't fail you, because I don't think you would have cared if we supported you or not, right? The draw to it was so strong and you believed in it so much. And I think you're the hallmark example of this. Like, the opportunities showed up. Polychain Capital said, come do it here. Because
Hmm.
I remember you were so committed to it and you were so in it and you were so focused on it, which is the other thing I want all my viewers or my audience to listen to what he's saying. He wasn't not in action. He was in aligned action with who he is and his beliefs. So the research, everything he did was goal-oriented forward towards this outcome. Can we call that, Sheriff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was no way in heck anybody was going to take you off this trail, were they?
No. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think you had one job that you were like, this ain't for me, right? We don't need to talk about that, but I just
Yeah.
remember that job at a very nice company. And he was like, can't do that anymore like that. I'm losing brain cells, right, doing that. And I think it was because it wasn't aligned with who you are and your purpose and your deep love of numbers and the technology and the cryptocurrencies. Would that be fair?
Yes, totally fair.
So, what would be for people listening going, well, he did it, I can't do it because he's special, he's different? What would you tell those people that are saying that right now?
I think my goal originally was to get paid to just research this, which was basically to get paid to do what I like already like to do in my spare time. So if I'm just sitting in my free time, could I get paid to just do what I'm already doing because I really like it? And so I was like, okay, now I got to get to that. But it was like, there's not really an industry to pay me to do this kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to have to like work to make that. And so I don't, oh, sorry, Kathy, were you?
No, I just said
Uh,
that's so cool. I hope you guys are all
mhm.
keying in on every word he's saying. That is so cool. The industry didn't even exist, so he created the industry for himself. Okay. So if you think you're fighting an uphill battle and it can't be done, listen to what he's saying. It didn't even exist. He did it on his own. Keep going.
Yeah. And I think the trade-offs I made because I had job offers that were more stable with higher pay, certainly, but I just knew that if I worked these, I would, yeah, obviously be like what you said, I'd be wondering what if, but also I think as my goal wasn't to have the most money, but it was to be really happy and productive because like when I look at numbers all day and I read and I listen to music, that's when I feel the best when I just leave my work and what I'm doing. So that was my goal. Yeah. So to get paid for that versus you could pay me $1 million a year to be a doctor and I'm just gonna hate every single second of it and I'm eventually gonna quit. Um, and that's just not my goal because then I'm gonna be leaving unhappy and not feeling fulfilled. And even in college, I just would listen to classical music and do math, and it was great. And just look at numbers all the time, and it like I felt great, and I had no money. I really didn't have that much money in college, But I felt good like leaving it. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about. And the trade-offs that I made and kind of like how I viewed this trade-off was I just don't I'd rather get paid less right now and build something and go towards something I really am happy doing than the opposite, which is get paid a lot for something I really might not even like to do.
That's so important because most people go through their life either making a lot of money and miserable. And I know that because a lot of those people end up at first being my clients. They come and they go, "Oh yeah, I'm making millions and millions. I'm not fulfilled. I don't have a good family life. My staff doesn't like me." And a lot of them are CEOs, and they're like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think the company hates me too." So that route, folks, as sexy as it sounds, is not that sexy, right? And so the sexy route, the better route really is for you to be in resonance with who you are, which is really what you're saying, Sheriff, that to be happy and productive and fulfilled is the end result of emotional resonance. Simply put, meaning like there's a vibe going on with you. And I always saw that for you where you were grooving and you were in so focused and in it. Let me tell you, the work that you do though is so detailed because I coach a lot of hedge fund guys and it's so analytical that unless you really love it, like people can't pay somebody enough to do work that they're not really vibing with and really loving to do. A lot of us do it, but we don't end up, like you said, we're just making money to be unhappy and unfulfilled. Literally, that's what you said. So, and if you're still listening to this going, "Oh, well, okay, well, now he can say this because he's met his goal." That's really, you're missing the mark. To make money, finish this sentence for me, Sheriff, based on your experience. To make money, you need to be emotionally resonating with yourself because you are what?
I mean, just very interested in what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're loving it, right?
love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that offsets the risk too, right?
yeah.
I mean, in a world where you were really a disruptor, there was no research on it. There was no market for it. People weren't happy with it, right? The rest of us didn't even understand what you were talking about. And so there's really no one there to like collectively support people like you, right? Who are disruptors in this way. Yet you were just so focused and clear and you did it following, I believe, your passion and your love and everything else just aligned. Is that a fair statement?
Right. Yep.
So what would be the lesson that you would want people to take away from your life so far?
I think taking I don't know, like in their perspective, taking a step back and looking at kind of like what they're doing day to day. I actually structure my day where I have like pieces of it that I just really love throughout the day and I like look forward to it. And my work is no different than any of that. And it's like my cup of coffee in the morning. Like I really, really enjoy it. Like I enjoy getting up early. I enjoy watching the market open and I enjoy drinking my coffee. But then it keeps going through the rest of the day to when I go to the gym, to the food I eat. Like I look forward to each little like bit that goes on. So I think it's more like looking back, like peeling it back and going, how much of my day do I actually really enjoy? And I think it's pretty intimidating too because if you're making actually really, I think the money factor is tough because you set up a lot of your life to be like relying upon that. And let's say you do something, you're like, you know what, this is not right for me, but it's paying me really well and it's holding up my lifestyle. But now I'm going to pivot that to try and do something I really love. It's like it will be a little bit of a bump initially, but then I think like down the line, you're just going to keep having the energy to make it great because, you know, it's like you could say, well, there's a million chefs out there. Um, and it's really hard to be another chef, but it's like, yeah, but if you're phenomenal and you because you love it, then you're going to be in the top tier. Because without even doing any work, just loving it, you're already beating 90% of the people because maybe most of them are just doing it because maybe it check the box or with their family. Like even for us, like even with you, Kathy, like it's like being an engineer, being a doctor, being a lawyer. That's the thing to do, but it's like at least in our families, like what I did was really different. And so I don't know. Yeah, pushing forward with that.
Yeah. How much of your day do you enjoy is the lesson. And to your point, yeah, I consider, if you don't mind me lumping myself in this category with you, I'm very much a black sheep. I was the good lawyer, right? I followed that path, as all good immigrants do, either become a doctor, lawyer, and engineer. And I did that very successfully for a long time until one day I woke up and I didn't learn my lesson the way you did very early on. I just was like, what is my life worth? There's lots of other people that can do this kind of lawyering work that I do, investment management. However, I am just being called to do something different that really feels easy for me. It's my natural talent. And to your point, it took me years to own that though. See, Sheriff, I think the difference is you emotionally resonated with your truth right out of the gate. You were like, this is it. I get it. I don't need anybody else to understand me or understand Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, any of that. I know what I know. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to create. And you focused on it and you took aligned action. I was wishy-washy at first because I was leaving a formal career and I had a lot of my identity linked to that, right? Falsely so.
Mm.
And so this is really what I take clients through now. And I've gotten to where you are now because I'm like, damn, I'm really good at this. And that comes from a place of deep humility, not from a place of arrogance. It took me a long time to get there. It's like when you say, look, I'm really good. Look what I've amassed here. Look what I've done. Look what this business does in terms of investments. And the people we use and employ and how we help society. I've gotten there and I can see that in my clients. And I'm telling you all this because it mimics Sherv's life, but in a, I'm like, I had a 15-year lag on this as I was building it out because no one did what I did. No one left the career like I did. But once I realized and hit my stride and clients were like, oh, wow, like that makes a difference in my life. Like, how did you do that, Katy? And I'm like, do what? It's just natural, right? Like, this is what I see as we're building it out. And this is how you're going to emotionally resonate. And this is the path we're going to put you on. You can just feel you've hit your stride and you can do it forever and ever. And it's really not a job. It's just part of who you are. Like you said, it's part of your day because it's not, I don't think you segment it. Do you, Sheriff? Like in your head, like now I'm going to quote unquote work. Now I'm going to stop and go to the gym. It's just part of who you are, right? It flows from the morning
Yeah,
until the end of the day, right?
exactly. There's not like I can't tell when I'm working and when I'm not.
Well said. And why is that? Say more about that so the audience really gets that.
Ah, yeah. I think it's well, even if I was 90 years old and I'm retired and I don't need my like I'm gonna be sitting here and doing the same thing throughout the day. Um, and so I can't really tell when I'm working and not because it's something I'd already be doing. Like even when I'm at the gym, I'm still researching on my phone and reading and things like that. Or walking around or I don't know, sitting on the couch or eating. I'm still kind of doing what my core quote unquote job is. So it's kind of all the time. And then that's actually what makes it hard because people always ask like, am I like when we go on vacation or travel, like my wife and it's like, oh, are you gonna work? It's like, I don't, oh, I, yeah, I get, like, of course I will. But it's not difficult. So yeah, that's where it kind of blends in, like what you're saying.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, cool. Any other lessons you want to leave the audience with?
No, I think that's good.
Good. So, second part of my podcast, I always ask my guests, what's one thing that's keeping you up at night, or you could use some coaching on? Let's fix it. Let's solve it. Let's brainstorm.
A lot of what we do is surprisingly selling, because what we do really well is taking the money that we get and investing it, doing our research and our diligence and investing it, and then actively managing that with like, what do we do with it? All that kind of stuff. But then the first step of that is getting money in from people. And the difficult part here is what we do is really technical. And you have to have a really good ability, I think, to sell to basically a person that doesn't know exactly what this is a lot of times. and they certainly don't know as much as we do. And so the difficulty becomes like being able to be a good storyteller, I think. My previous boss at my previous fund was really good at that, like being able to just pitch to people. And I think for me, I'm a little bit more like it's hard to word different things and like be able to pitch and sell what we do to bring in the initial money. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. And you're on the right track. It really is about the storytelling aspect, the emotional resonance, because people aren't buying what you're doing for them. They don't even need to understand what you're doing for them. They just need to feel aligned with you and feel that confidence that you have in who you are, that you are standing in your truth. And once they do, what happens is they trust you because you are vibing at the same frequency. That really is the science behind emotional resonance. It is about the field and Einstein's theories of resonance, that we're all energy and we all vibrate at a certain frequency. So if your audience, and I know you guys can't, for the listeners, you can't see where my hands are, but if your audience and the people that you're pitching to are vibrating at a frequency, say up here, higher, you've got to match that frequency and bring your resonance up high too. Otherwise, you're not going to be on the same plane with them. You're not going to be vibing, as the Beach Boys used to call it. For those of you who don't know who the Beach Boys are, go Google them or AI them. And so then there's a mismatch. They're not gonna trust you, they're not gonna feel safe for you, and they're not gonna, whatever of what you're saying, like they want a left brain linear cognitively buy, they're not going to even get there, because we buy from our right creative brain and we justify the purchase from our left linear analytical brain. So the goal, the emotional resonance, really lies in that right creative brain that feels your story and feels your passion for it and feels the safety. So with hedge fund managers, I always say, and anyone we're teaching sales to, it's about that they feel like they can trust you with their life, because a lot of people put their money over their life. I mean,
Mm,
it's a sad statement, but it's true, right? So it's the naturalness. So for you, Sheriff, what you just shared with us really tells us this is so natural for you. Like you can't fail at it. And that's what you just need to share with your audience. So if I were you, I would start from the top of your story, build in some of those stories that I shared with you that you might have forgotten, about the fact that you won the investment club thing. I remember when you were in high school or junior high. I mean, that was a big deal. Of all those students that competed, there was fake money, but I mean, results are results, right? It's about the instinct people have and the desire and the drive to do it even when they're at the gym. Now, we want to make sure we hire people that are not so hyper focused on it that they're a little bit like, I'm going to use a word and it's a clinical word. So all the clinical people, close your ears, neurotic about it, right? Like they're so obsessed with it, they can't detach. But that's not you. I mean, you guys just went on vacation. You guys do healthy stuff. You just have a healthy dose of respect for who you are, the technology, the vehicle, and the love for it. So you just need to start from the top and let people know who you are in this realm. And then they
mm,
can connect the dots and know you're good at it because you've already got the results. That part of the sale is easy for someone like you because you can just show the results, right? And so I think that is an easy way to go. It just takes some getting used to of getting out of your left linear analytical A plus B equals C brain and getting into your right creative brain of going, okay, empathy and trust. That's what emotional resonance rides off of. And how can I let this person know what's in my heart? Not in my mind, but in my heart. And how
mm.
much I care for them and how much I can be there for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. I think a lot of them value the relationship we have, which is actually not based on performance or anything like that. So it's like the soft factors, like what you're saying. So yeah,
Safety. And watch the word
yeah,
for yourself. An audience, watch that word. Because sometimes when the word soft skill, soft anything, people think it's the mushy, uh, cheesy stuff, for lack of a better word, squishy stuff. It really is the foundational nature of the psychology of people. right? So I almost sometimes want to send all salespeople back to school to get a psych degree, because if you understand the psychology of how the unconscious mind and the conscious mind work together, and the safety element that's needed for me to cognitively connect with you, but connect from the heart space and the energy that our body emits, then you really understand that the foundational elements are all about that. Like, do you get me? Do you see me? Do you feel for my plight and my cause? That's why the art and talent of storytelling is so profoundly important in all industries. And like I said, I was just a content marketing world, and all the chief marketing officers talk about that. Like, the art of the story is still something that AI can't replicate. It's the human nature of people that can never get lost, because even if you're selling to someone, Sheriff, who's shoved their emotions down and they're numb, just the fact that they feel seen and heard by you because you connect with your story to some level of who they are, then they're going to feel something, and they're going to feel gratitude. And that is the number one place to come from, that people are grateful that you're willing to take them on. And so that requires a mind shift for you too. Sales isn't about you getting money from others. It's about you showing up, being grateful to be in service, and saying, let's see if I can serve you well. And let me just tell you who I am, and this is what we do, and this is my love for it. Does that work for you or not? And so the little bit of laissez-faire without seeming like arrogant and pretending like you don't care while you really care goes a long way, I think, in all sales, especially sales for people's dollars. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very good. That's good.
So what's one action item you can try on when you go out to pitch next? Well, first, don't
I
call it
think
a pitch because it's so,
no, yeah.
right?
I think like you said, the right brand versus the left brand side, hitting more on the right brand. I say soft. I think what I mean by soft is like, yeah, it's the things you can't put numbers behind, you know? So I think hitting on those kind of parts, and the actual joy and the love of doing it. That's more the right brand. Yeah.
Yeah. It is the stuff that you cannot put into quantitative metrics, which is what makes us stumble, because it's like, well, how do I get this going? Well, you trust your gut, trust your intuition, trust your feelings. And
Mhm.
that's how you emotional resonate. All
Cool.
right, cool. So you get the last say. What's the last word you want to leave us with?
Not a whole lot. This was really good. I learned a lot. This was good. Fun talking. Yeah, I think that's it. I
All
can
right.
also give my contact info, just like
Yes,
my
please.
email or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they need, and not that they need to, if they want to follow
Hmm.
up and get more information, or if they want to invest with you,
Yeah,
or any aspect of learning about you, where would you like me to
sure.
send them?
Maybe just my email is Sherwin, Sherwin at Veil .capital. That's it.
Got it. All right, and that'll be in the show notes, folks. So thanks for being my first guest on the Subseries and showing people how you emotionally resonate and make a lot of money and really live a life that's full of purpose. So for all my listeners, I thank you for joining me. Today was really an episode for you to see how you can start in an industry or in a space that really does not have any trend to it. You can be a pioneer, a disruptor, and how you can use that momentum from your emotional resonance to overcome risk, fears, and doubts and naysayers, and be in a creative space that no one needs to know anything about but you believe in from your heart. And that is how you generate a lot of money, because you believe in it, you're naturally good at it, and you show up emotionally resonating. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, everyone, keep emotionally resonating, do it your way, and let us know what you thought about the podcast. Share it, like it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.